and sell to the Army bases, the Army base, the military, and everybody's going to come after these green products because green is hot right now. Well, guys, it didn't work. Unfortunately, it was one of those life lessons where we should have invested a little bit more in our knowledge. Maybe get somebody who knew about bottling and not depending on one person down east to help us out. But it was okay, because we were trying to diversify our funding. You know, we were trying not to rely on government or these contractual folks. We were trying to do something good and do something right. It didn't work out, unfortunately. We were able to sell the bottling equipment back, though, at a profit. So that was good. I think we made about $5,000 on it. So that was good. That was good. And we still are doing labeling for that company. So we still label the bottles for that company. I don't know how well he's doing, but when he comes and needs things labeled, we label them. Okay, that was one mistake. You know, I'm just being real. Working in nonprofit, you have a few mistakes. You gotta learn. You gotta learn. So that didn't work out too well, and then we had to downsize a bit, make up for that loss. We got rid of some positions. I got a new hat to wear, and more responsibility. And I've been there 13 years, guys. I think I've worn every hat available, including working with the folks with disabilities. I mean, I've done it all, I'm happy, I'm proud to say that because I believe in Wake Enterprises and believe in what we do and the good we're doing, so it's okay. So, a year and a half later, happy to report that contract has come back. Not without a lot of loss, but they're back. And we also have a new project off the ground, which I'm very excited about. I don't know if any of you heard about the Oak City Roasters coffee downtown. Oak City Roasters coffee is he's a one-man show. His mission is to go around and get the best coffee. He goes to Guatemala and the other countries to get his coffee. It's very delicious. And he uses our folks and employs our folks. We package all of his coffee. And then we were able to get another grant and purchase a K-cup machine, or whatever the machine's called. And a roaster, but for the K-cups.
Keurig.
Keurig. Yeah, like a Keurig machine, but it makes it. So now we're able to have our own little enterprise inside of Wake Enterprises. We have a green room. We were able to get a license to have this coffee inside of our building. And we make K-cups for him now as well. So we are very excited about this project. I mean, as a nonprofit, you gotta continue to grow. Some things don't work and you have failures. It hurts really bad at the time, but then you just gotta grow from that and see what works. I'm really hoping that we are able to buy another machine and that we're able to grow. I would love to have our own little coffee shop. The coffee is delicious. And we're also growing because the folks' needs that we serve are changing too. You have to be a hybrid as well. You can't stay what we were in the basement of the church in 1979. Our folks' needs are changing. Our folks are getting older. We're seeing people with more disabilities. So we're having to really see if we're just the work model, and we're not. We had to create an art component to our organization, so we were able to get funded for our art program. And we bring in local artists, all from North Carolina, to come and teach our folks every year. Every 6 to 8 weeks, we have a different artist come in, whether it be music, art, drumming, dance, theater. They come in and they teach our folks. We used to have a partnership with Wake Tech Community College called Compensatory Education. I don't know if y'all heard of that. It was a very old program and a very great program that our folks love, but they got rid of it. So we had to go in a different direction. Our current program services director is creating our own quote-unquote university. So we're trying other ways to bring in funding. We have to change the look of our organization to be more attractive to people as well. Not just the funders, but also the people who receive our services. Because we know they're not gonna stay the same either. They're getting older, they're retiring, they're passing. we need to attract the new folks and the new parents and the other people who need our services. So I feel kind of like an oddball out here because I am the nonprofit, sole nonprofit, but I feel like we're going in the right direction with listening to Marc and Leigh-Kathryn, because if we stay stagnant and stay how we were, then we're not going to make the biggest impact we can, and we're not going to stay around either. And we've learned that from this past year and a half of losing that $500,000 funding. We couldn't stay the same if we stayed like we were. And unfortunately, it took a couple shakeups to make us change. That loss of funding and also the loss of the bottling. Took a little bit of shakeups, but it's okay. We're growing and we're learning from that. And I'm happy that we are changing and growing with the times.
So thank you to our panelists for sharing their insights. And now it's time for questions or comments from the audience. Yes.
I want to thank all three of you for your resilience. It's very, very impressive and encouraging. Is it Leigh-Kathryn?
Yes.
Yes. So Leigh-Kathryn, on the topic of the word of the night, hybridity, which is a new word to me, can you share a little bit about the legal relationship between your nonprofit and your for-profit, and what are the additional costs you incur in managing both of those?
Yeah, that's a great question.
And, I'm sorry, and just one more third question is, your corporate sponsors, are they donating to the nonprofit for the tax write-off, or are they giving to the, or is it revenue for the corporation?
It's a great question, and we have had to go back and forth with that. And it's been, Richard has gotten so many emails from me about, like, can I do this, and is this okay? And I remember vaguely something about this in a class. It's got to be very structured, and it has to be very, very clear. We're lucky that one of our nonprofit board members, Damon Sarcosta, is a nonprofit lawyer, and he runs the A.J. Fletcher Foundation and is just a brilliant human being. And we originally, when we moved to the for-profits, because a lot of businesses wanted to pay through marketing funds. Now that we're shifting and we're getting a lot of these really big company names, they want to give it through their foundations.
So it's marketing and not CSR.
So it's a little bit of it's a little bit of everything, really. So we do have companies that still pay through our for-profit, and part of what we make goes into the nonprofit every year. But the way we've restructured Be Downtown is that if a company or a donor can only get Be Downtown Hives if it's through a nonprofit foundation donation, then what we have is we have this very clear structure between the Be Downtown Foundation and the Be Downtown Incorporated, where it can go to the foundation, but then we contract to the for-profit for the work. It would be an open contract, and so if there was another company in the area that started doing something like we did, we would have to win the bid. Right now, we are the only company that's doing something like this as a full package, so we're able to do that, but it's very clear on what money goes where and when, and just the paperwork that goes with it. And I am not an organized person, and it has made me become very, very organized, because I do not want to mess this up. But it's me, and then there's the other half of Be Downtown, Justin Manis. He is a graduate from NC State as well. He's the lead beekeeper, was a horticulture major. We have volunteers that do the nonprofit work, that teach in the school systems. We give a stipend for people to come and teach in school systems. We have way too many schools asking for us to teach about bees and pollinator health. So we give a stipend to the people that we work with for that. But it has been a very interesting relationship. We thought we were going to lose, like $40,000 worth of contracts because we couldn't do the money through the nonprofit. And I called Damon up almost in tears, and I was like, we're going to lose so many contracts, and I don't know what to do. And he's like, no, you can do it this way. This is why we set it up like this. But you have to be very clear in where the money goes, how much of it. You can't, take more money from one contract, less money from another. It's like a set amount that gets used, which actually has shown to benefit us really well, because more money actually stays in our nonprofit. And where, it's not taxed, but we're able to do more through like getting grants for, bee education and work than we were able to when it was just a for-profit. So we've been able to find this really great balance in what we do. But it's a balance, and it's very clear. We're very lucky that we have Damon on our board to help us with that, because it's a whole world for me. I was not a business major at all. The first checks I wrote, I didn't sign, and I got emails from people like, "These aren't signed," and I was like, "You sign a check where?" I called my dad, who's like, "Oh, we have failed your last year." But it's a learning process, and people in the community are more than willing to help if you just ask.
So, Marc, you have a hybrid. What's
Yeah.
your sort of story of the
Well, that's a really good question. The challenges of the hybrid structure are vast. The first time I heard about the hybrid idea was from a guy named Jed Emerson, who ran the Hewlett Foundation out in California, and he was involved in, I think, a couple of bakeries working with ex-offenders and trying to figure this out. And we had already gotten there. We had already kind of figured out that a hybrid was a good idea. But one of the challenges for us has been the perception amongst our customers. And the customers could be both our donors and the people who either buy our fuel or buy our services with the buses, what we are. And so they're like, do I donate to you or do I buy your services? And so we have not been very strongly soliciting any of our customer base for donations. We simply use the nonprofit as a flow through for the cash that we generate from the businesses. So the nonprofit has received funding, has gotten grants, and the grants have to be meticulously accounted for. And so that's one of the fair challenge. What we've been doing is that each of the LLCs that we have on our property is partially owned by the nonprofit. And all of our credit card business goes through our nonprofit. So every credit card charge is processed by our nonprofit and then redistributed to our LLC. So we pay the LLC, the nonprofit, for that service, and that's a way for them to get income. So we have not been challenged by the IRS yet for that strategy, but that's one way we've done it. And so far so good, and we don't know, we'll see, but our CPAs don't seem to have a problem with it, and I think it's working. We have to make sure that the I's are dotted and the T's crossed. You've got to make sure that there's not this either perceived or actual movement of money between the two worlds. But I really do see that this is a challenge right now. We've got also the new techniques of raising money online, these crowdsourcing techniques. And that really kind of somewhat bothers me, because the traditional ask for a nonprofit of simply getting money, and that money goes to those whatever. So now people are doing that, but for businesses. And I'm going, wow, I wish I had that source of capital when I started. I'm simply asking, say, hey, I've got this great idea, just give me some money, and I'll go make a business out of it. I never really thought that was ethical, and I guess it is now. So it's pretty cool, because there's a lot of great businesses that need that capital. But that dynamic between the two organizations, we haven't really figured out how to make it really sing. And I think a key is an excellent board, keeping your board really, really in the loop and on it. So.
Do you have any insights as you started up your roastery, or what?
Do you have your board reviewed?
Yes.
Yes. So the board.
Our board reviews all our financials. Every anything where we're going to spend over $10,000 is in our bylaws that we have to go to our board to get approval. Our board makes it clear we're not going to tell you what to do. You know the ins and outs of your business. However, we just want to make sure those funds are being directed as they should. They're public money.
Good time for another question or two. Yes.
You've all kind of touched on this a little bit with the boards, and I know that some of you started to be downtown. So how did that work with forming the board? Like, did you find board members and they helped you with the organization, or how did that work for all of you?
For me with Be Downtown, one of the things that I love most about NC State and the College of Humanities and Social Sciences is you are going to have an internship every semester, even if it means you're not going to sleep at night. But because of that, as a graduating senior, I had a much bigger network than I think most students do at universities. And so I was able to find board members like so Damon Sarkosta joined the board, and Michael Goodman joined my board, and we had the head of Birdsby's sustainability join the board, and Master Beekeeper joined the board, and so we had this very diverse board structure, and that's one of the things Richard drilled into us was that you've got to have a diverse board. You can't just have everyone coming from an accounting background. That doesn't work. You need to have diversity, not just in race and gender, but in where they're coming from, in their age, as well as their background and what they focus in. So that's what we did. We had a nonprofit lawyer. Michael is well known for startups in the community and revitalizing areas. We had a master beekeeper, one of the top ranking beekeepers, join the board. The director of sustainability for Birds Bees that can help us build a sustainable program. And we have someone on the board that is an educator. So we rounded out our board, and we were very intentional about who we asked to be on the board, and the needs that we needed met, and that I needed met, because coming out of college, there are so many things that I don't know, and I am not afraid to ask. I will over ask generally, and people are like, okay, give me a few days and let's ask another question. But I think having just a well-rounded board and not being afraid to say, hey, would you like to have lunch with me? I would like to talk to you about potentially joining the board. And building a relationship with someone, though, before you make that ask is really, really important. You want them invested in what you're doing and your mission before you say, hey, I want you to devote this amount of time a year to this cause that I believe strongly in, but you might not yet. So it's better to wait for the ask than it is to just jump the gun on it.
Yes.
Did you specifically, for all of you, did you specifically seek out board members that were and had already participated in a board, or did you raise them up to function with education and skill set? And are they active in fundraising for your organizations as well?
Okay. Whoa. I'm a board member as well. So sometimes we get a bad rap. I hear that fundraising question in there. But no, we try to seek out different, Leigh-Kathryn was saying, different varieties of board members. However, in our bylaw states that we must have a certain amount of family members on our board, just because they have that connection to the cause, and we want to make sure we're always have that kind of checks and balances, that we're doing what we're supposed to for the participant or the consumer. We've had board members join from hearing about the organization, maybe never even working or knowing about a person with a disability. I used to host these lunch clubs every other month, and I would either do a breakfast club or a lunch club. And I asked my board, I said, okay, you guys are responsible for one breakfast or lunch club a year. I have 15 of you. You're only responsible for one. And to that lunch club or breakfast club, you have to bring 2 to 3 people and introduce them to the organization. I'm a big believer in seeing is believing. We work with people with disabilities, and if you've never worked with a person with an intellectual developmental disability, first you're missing out, so come see me. But you don't always get it. You don't get the mission. You don't get, okay, they go and they work, we're helping people find a job. You don't understand the invaluable resource you're giving someone to be able to have a job and earn a paycheck and give back to society, go to the store and buy a Pepsi. That is invaluable. So anyway, those lunch clubs, I had them bring them to the lunch clubs, and then they left them to me. It was my job then to cultivate them, to call them, say, hey, how'd you enjoy the lunch club? Can I bring you back one-on-one, or can we go out, can we have a coffee? Are you interested in learning more? Or they're like, no, I'm okay, I love your cause, I'll give a donation. Okay, well, do you mind if I have another lunch club in a month? Can you invite one of your friends? And so that's how I got a diverse number of people on my board. I'm actually going to start these back in a couple of months because it's time for some folks to rotate off. Speaking of fundraising, they're getting tired of fundraising. But we do ask that every person on our board make a monetary donation and also seek out a monetary donation. We know we do have some family members on limited budgets. We don't give them a number. I know some people give their folks a number, but we have families, older people. I have one of the parents who started Wake Enterprises from 1979 still on my board. Miss Dixie comes to our board meeting, so tell me, sorry honey, I can't come tonight. So that's what we do.
Yes.
So as a director on a nonprofit board and also a staff member for a foundation, I'm wondering about some of what I've heard in conversations is sort of, I have such passion and belief in my social mission. And so I don't feel like when the conversation or, around a revenue generating arm comes up, there's this resistance about, I can't put a dollar value on that. We need to make sure our services are available because it's addressing this really important need. How have the three of you encountered that? And how do you tackle some of that resistance?
That's a great question.
Great question. It was hard.
No, I think it's really a shift in the paradigm of how we address social issues.
Right.
Yeah, so this is a question about the whole idea of a for-profit entity entering into the realm of the serving social needs and how that can be done strategically or sensitively, empathetically. This is a real challenge. Turning a society into a market-based system, which seems to be the ideology that's in power right now, not so agreeing with that, are we? That it has its role, and both organizations, both components of our society have